This video is going to be an overview of QuickBooks Online. I'm going to go through several functions of QuickBooks Online and demonstrate them. I do have other QuickBooks Online videos, and I'll link some of those in the description just in case you want to go into a little more detail about any of the topics that I go over today. Keep in mind that your screen may look different than mine if you have a different version of QuickBooks, or if your settings are different. You can find your settings by going to the gear icon, Account and Settings. And you can see that there's a lot of different options here for functions and features you can turn on and off. Also keep in mind that your screen may look a little different depending on when you watch the video, because QuickBooks does change its interface over time. So first we're going to talk about entering transactions. I can enter transactions manually up here in the top left corner. I can create a customer invoice, I can create a vendor expense or bill or write a check. I can process payroll, enter a timesheet, create a deposit, and several other functions. Let's go ahead and enter a few transactions. First, I'm going to create a vendor expense. I would put the payee at the top. The payment account is going to be what account it's coming from. Did I pay the expense from the checking account, the savings account, or a credit card? I would put the actual date of the transaction. And I could put a payment method and a reference number if I wanted to. And then, of course, I need to put a category and the amount. If it's billable to a customer, I would want to put that information in there also. And I could put a memo, and I could add an attachment. And down here at the bottom right, I can save or save and close. Let's also add a deposit. So I would click on bank deposit. I would put what account it's being deposited to. I would put the date and the category. And any descriptions, attachments would go in here also. And then I can enter transactions also from the sales screens under customers or invoices. You'll see green action buttons over here on the right on some of these screens. I can add a customer here. I can create an invoice here. If I go to expenses, I can create a new transaction here. So there's just a lot of places that I can add transactions. I'm not limited to one place. Now, another thing that you can do is connect your bank and credit card accounts. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Under transactions, bank transactions, you have the option to connect any accounts here. And what this does is connect to your business, bank, or credit card accounts, and it allows you to bring transactions into the software. It can make things more efficient in adding transactions. I'm going to go ahead and enter some of these transactions so you can see how I would normally enter transactions if I were bookkeeping for this sample company. First of all, there's already some transactions in this sample company file. So you can see that some of these have a suggested match. So I would say just make sure the match looks correct before you match it to the transaction. I'm just going to click on this one so we can see what it looks like. And you can see it's a deposit with several customer payments in it being deposited to checking. So that does look like it matches. So I'm going to go ahead and click on match. And I'm going to look at some of these other ones. What I'm basically looking for is the data from the software that's already entered matches the bank detail in some way, or I'm looking to see if it looks like it is an accurate match. If it is not an accurate match, I can either categorize the transaction or I can find other matches. And it will bring up some other amounts and items that it thinks it might do. It might be matched to. And I can uncheck suggested matches for it to bring in everything. But obviously that's a lot of data to sort through. I'm just going to go ahead and click on match because it does look like it matches. And I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the rest of these are matches as well. But normally, like I said, I would take a quick peek just to make sure I'm matching the correct item to the correct bank transaction. Now you can see that some of these have 2 matches found, and I would just click on that line to figure out which one looks more accurate. In this case, I have a bank detail that says Pam for $75. The dates are very similar, within a few days, but this one says Books by Bessie, so that's probably not correct. It's probably this expense 76 that also says Pam. So I would make sure that one was checked and click match. And then this one also has 2 matches found. So I would just click on this and try to figure out which one is the correct one. Looking at the dates, I would say probably the one on the 20th matches because it's the same day as the bank transaction. But, you know, if I actually worked for this company, if it was a real company, I might know. So in this case, I would say it's probably this one. I would also want to make sure there's no duplicates here. Is this an accidental duplicate? Because it's the same company, same amount, just a different date. So those would be the kinds of things you would look for if you were doing bookkeeping. I'm going to go ahead and match it to the one with the closest date. And then that leaves me with these transactions that I would need to enter manually. I could either enter them right here on the screen, or I could click over here on new and enter them over here. Okay, so first I'll do the Hicks hardware one. I would try to match it to the closest category of what it actually was. In this case, let's just say that it was for maintenance and repair. And then I would just add. If I realize that I made a mistake, I can always go to the Categorize tab and look for that transaction. And here it is right here. And I can actually undo what I just did if I want to go back and start over. And then Books by Bessie, this is a vendor, but it's a deposit. So whenever there's a return of an expense, a refund of an expense, I usually try to record it in the same category as the original expense. So let's go to the Books by Bessie vendor. Here it is right here. And it looks like the original $55 expense or check was posted to legal and professional fees subcategory bookkeeper. So I'm going to go back to that transaction and post it to that account. And then there's 3 transactions, 2 expenses and a deposit for A1 rental. This vendor is not in QuickBooks, so I can add it right here. And it allows me to change this from customer to vendor to employee, depending on what type of company it was. In this case, it's a vendor. And then I could add extra details there, but I just went ahead and saved it. And then I would choose the correct category. In this case, it was equipment rental. And you can see that as soon as I did that, QuickBooks automatically changed the other 2 transactions to equipment rental. I'm going to go ahead and add the other one. The details are already pre-filled here. And it's going to pop up this it's going to give me this pop-up. You can turn these off, but this is a suggestion to set up a rule for any time you have expenses from a rental. And I'm just going to click on yes. I'm going to go ahead and let it create a rule, and I can edit that rule and put more details in there if I want to, but I'm just going to leave it like this. It does give me the option not to show that again if I don't want those suggestions, but I'm going to go ahead and create the rule. And any rules that you set up are in here. Sometimes you can set up rules to make it easier and faster to enter transactions. And then I have one more deposit received money. It's the deposit refund. I'm just going to go ahead and record that back to the equipment rental account. Since I have the expenses under equipment rental, it just makes sense to put any return back to that same account. Okay, that's it. All the transactions in that account are categorized now, and it's up to date. And then I would also do something similar with the credit card transactions. You can see that it's finding matches for a couple of transactions that are already in here. So again, normally I would double check to make sure these look accurate, but since I don't actually work for this company, it's a sample company, I'm just going to assume that they are correct. And then there are two credit card expenses that are the same thing, Squeaky Clean Car Wash. They just have different dates, and each one is finding two matches. So I just need to make sure I'm matching the correct one with the correct date. That's all. And then I'm left with two transactions left. There's an Amazon return. So I'm going to need to add Amazon as a vendor. And I'm not sure what the return was for, but let's just assume it was office supplies or office expenses. And then I have one more expense, Lara's lamination business card. I'm going to add that vendor and then also add the expense. Sometimes I put these under advertising, sometimes I put them under office expenses or office supplies. I would say choose a category based on what makes sense to you and what you think fits the closest. Since advertising is right here, I'm just going to use that. Okay, and then once those transactions are entered, I would want to enter any other transactions that I had maybe from before the bank connection or anything else. So it's fairly straightforward to enter transactions this way. And if I want to go back and see anything I've entered, I can just click on categorized, or I can go to the chart of accounts and look for the accounts. So here's the checking account. I could view the register, and it's going to show me all the transactions in this account. It's also a good idea to reconcile monthly. Basically, you just choose the account you want to reconcile. A reconciliation is just looking at the difference between what's on your bank statement and what's in your QuickBooks software. And it's a good idea to do these monthly. And this will help you find any mistakes, such as duplicates or missing transactions. All you have to do is enter the ending balance and the ending date of the statement, of the bank statement. So I'm just going to make up a number because I don't know what is the actual number. And then I would click Start Reconciling, and I would match all these transactions to what's on the bank statement and look into anything that is a duplicate or missing. And there's deposits. If I just want to look at deposits, and payments if I just want to look at payments. So I do recommend doing this monthly for all of your bank and credit card accounts. You can save this for later. You can close without saving if you need to start over, or you can finish now. You can't really finish now. You really need to get this down to 0 though before you can finish. And I do have a separate reconciliations video if you want to see this in more detail. For now, I'm just going to click close without saving. The next thing I want to talk about is customer invoices. So under sales, you can add your customers by clicking on new customers, or you can import a customer list or multiple customers all at once. If I go to the invoices page, it does show me invoices that are already in the system. And then if I go to products and services, that shows me the product and service items that I put on the invoice. Basically, if you create an invoice, I'm just going to click on create invoice and choose a customer. Oh, I accidentally added Amazon as a customer instead of a vendor. QuickBooks doesn't let me add a category here. It forces me to add a product or service. So I have to set up the products and services before I can create an invoice if this is a new company file. To add a product or service, you would just click on new over here on the right, and you would choose what type of item you want. I'm just going to go ahead and choose service. And what I want to do is link it to an account. In this case, I'm going to link it to the services account. If I wanted a certain description to fill out on all sales forms, I would put that here. So I'm going to put monthly, consulting services. And if I also purchase something, like if I purchase a good and then sell it, I can also connect it to an expense account down here. And then I also want to make sure the sales tax is correct. This is going to be non-taxable in this case. And I would just save and close. And then I could create an invoice in a couple different places. I could go to the customer that I want to create an invoice, or I could click on this new button and create an invoice from here. I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice so I can demonstrate this. I would want to put the terms, whether it was due in 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, or I could add a new term, or I could leave this blank. And you can see it automatically adjusts the due date as I make changes. I could add a product or service. I'm going to use the consulting services item. And I didn't put a rate in the service item, so I'm going to have to add it here. If I want to put a discount, I can do that here. If I want to, I'm not going to. And then I can change the messages, change the descriptions, or anything else. And then I would click on save and send when I wanted to send it to a customer. In this case, the customer doesn't have an email in here. I'm just going to put a fake one and click save and send. And you can see this is the screen that comes up. You can customize this screen if you want to, and you can send it. It's not going to let me send it, obviously, because this is sample data, but this is the screen that would allow you to send it directly to a customer. I'm just going to go ahead and click Save and Close. And that's all there is to creating invoices. And I'm going to go to that customer so we can see that invoice. There it is right there. And I can still edit that invoice. I can post a payment to it. I can copy it. I can send reminders and so on. If you have inventory items and you're tracking inventory, obviously it's going to be a little more complicated. I just demonstrated a very simple example. Next, I want to talk about vendors and vendor bills and vendor expenses. Those would be under the Expenses tab. You can add new vendors here or import a list of vendors. There is also an Expenses tab and a Vendor Bill tab. Let's go ahead and add a vendor bill. For vendor bills, you do have to you can enter a category directly, or you can add a product or service. To add a product or service, I believe you have to turn that setting on in the gear icon that I talked about at the very beginning of the video. But I'm just going to choose a category. Let's choose a vendor. And it will pop up and ask me if I want to overwrite the values using the last bill. I can say yes, but I can still edit what I want to edit. Sometimes that pops up if you start entering things before you put in the vendor name. I can put in the bill date, the due date, the bill number, a description. I can change the category, change the amount. I can mark it billable to a customer if I want to. I can add an attachment. So there's a lot of things I can do here. I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. And I can mark this as paid once it's paid, or I can schedule an online payment through QuickBooks payment options. I'm just going to go ahead and choose Save and Close. And it's going to be under the Unpaid Bills section. Over here are some paid bills. I'm going to go ahead and mark this telephone bill as paid. And you can see that it lets me change what account it was paid from. I can change the reference number. So if it was a check, I can change this to a check number. I can change the date. I can change the amount if just a partial amount was paid. So there's a lot of things I can do here, and I can even add notes and attachments. I'm just going to leave this like this and save and close. And that's it. Now it moved it over to the paid bills. And really that's all there is to vendors. You can also just add expenses. You don't have to add everything as a vendor bill. Like for example, here's some credit card expenses, a credit card credit. So the expenses side is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And then the last thing I want to go over would be the reports. There's a lot of different options for reports, and these are in categories. For example, you have reports just related to expenses and vendors, some reports just related to sales tax, some just related to employees, and so on. So there's a lot of options here. And what reports you see on the screen is really going to depend on your subscription level. They do put favorites up here at the top, and you can click on these little star icons to add more reports to your favorites. I'm going to go ahead and do the profit and loss by month. I can actually customize this and then save it as a customized report. If I do that, let me go back to the reports page. If I do that, it's going to be under this tab. So you can put several custom reports here, and you can even set them up to be emailed periodically to people in the company. And of course, you can delete them also. I'm going to click on Edit. and I can share with people, and I can set an email schedule here. And then there are some management reports that are already in QuickBooks that you can review. I'm not going to go in too much detail on the reports, but I just basically wanted to point out that they're here. I recommend reviewing these reports periodically. So that's a really general overview and demonstration of QuickBooks Online. I do get into a little more detail in some of my other videos, and you can certainly subscribe if you want to see more upcoming videos. If you have any video requests, just put them in the comments, ask questions in the comments, and otherwise, thank you for watching.